Great, so I'm totally excited to start our art talk, which is happening as part of exhibition PROFECIA at her Clique in Lisbon, the exhibition that is featuring 11 artists from Central Eastern Europe and Portuguese designers. And in our talk we can meet today Tomanova.
Hello.
Clara, Rego.
Hello.
And Mia. Yes, Mia Dudek. And I wanted to talk with you a little bit first about the topic of the exhibition, because with this project I was wondering how we can combine female gaze and future. And I wanted to ask you first, how do you understand in your work female gaze? Is that important for you, or maybe it's more like queer gaze, or how do you approach this topic? There were a lot of exhibitions about female gaze in the recent years, so it's like a kind of theory of art already, but it was like about the past, the things that happened. But now I'm wondering how we can use this female gaze to predict future. So.
Very interesting question. You know, the way I think about it is not necessarily in terms of what gender my gaze is, but the way I approach the people that I photograph in my work, I think is very empathic in a way, and I think that kind of is different than, you know, it might be from other point of view. I think that it's important for me that my work is very much me and reflecting me, whatever gender I might feel at that point. And, you know, not that, I think there is fluidity that's important.
Yes.
And I think that, you know, it's really just purely reflection of me. So in my photography work, it's very much about connecting with the people in front of the camera. And I think that is really the essence of it, and the connection with the subject and how I approach them. For me, it's important to talk to the people and connect with them and make it into something more than just a portrait of that person. Make it really about who they are and capture them as who they are. And I wonder if the approach to the process of how I'm capturing photographs of these people is where, in a sense, that female caring, tenderness, empathic kind of thing shows in much deeper way than I actually realize, and that somehow is shaping the gaze that I have, if that makes sense.
But in the video that you are presenting in the exhibition, you are interviewing your friends, and it's like you decided to invite queers and women from what I understand, yes? So
actually, when
you're empowering their identities through your works.
Right. When I came to New York, I didn't know anybody, so all the people I met through photography were originally strangers, and through the process of taking pictures together, we became friends. So that was what was important for me in photography, but also the, you know, New York is a magical place. New York has a little bit of everything you can imagine. And I think the people, who they are, and the freedom that they're expressing in their identities was something that absolutely fascinated me. And, you know, it also includes queerness and that freedom that you see in, you know, who people are, who they want to be in New York much more easily than being in a small town. And I think that is what I guess I'm looking for. So yeah,
cool. And this is what we can see in the photo that we are presenting in the exhibition. Your friend Lily looking through the pink-red glasses into the future with the city in the background.
Yeah, yes. That red gaze, that looking through the red glass into the city. Yeah.
Cool. Clara, your ceramics, they are like a kind of ocean world brought into another reality. How does it go together with the female gaze?
I think for me it's more about spirituality, this female gaze. So I think it's something that I've started to find through working with the ceramics. And being from Portugal is quite conservative. And I think this spiritual gaze of women hasn't been so looked at it, or more silence maybe. And I really felt like my spiritual journey started with art because I'm not religious. So I think that more, I would say, mystic side that I want to express, but also didn't have an output for it religiously or spiritually, started with art. And I think the way that we are socialized to, as you said, to have empathy or many more emotions is visible then in the artwork or in your spirituality. So I think it can help shape the range or the spectrum of emotions that you will see in art in general, but also provide this to females to have this output and for themselves to be able to show up in the world in a different way. So like kind of a cycle, you know?
Okay.
So
is there a kind of witchcraft in your works?
I would call that, you know. I like to
Okay.
think that I would be burned back then if I did.
Okay.
But the thing is, I
They are
really...
ceramics, so they were burned.
Yeah, exactly. It makes sense. But I use, it's funny because I work with tiles as well, so in tile work it's very technical and planned, but with sculptural ceramics I have no plan, I just do it like in a very cathartic way and meditative state, you know. So I like to guess, yes, I see what moon we're in, if I want to manifest something when I'm working and which materials. So yeah, definitely some witchcraft in there.
Historically, like ceramics was more the domain of women work. Was it like this in Portugal or?
No, in Portugal there were a lot of men ceramicists, like I don't know, in the beginning of century, and the ones that are, you know, dying now or leaving some legacy. There were some women, but a lot of men as well. But I think maybe what is mostly what is called art or artistic ceramics would be more that label given to men's work, and maybe women would be like in the background and doing a lot of utilitarian kind of ceramics that we're very strong at as well, you know.
Cool.
So I think there's that.
Great. Mia, we are presenting your latex
Yes.
in the exhibition. How do you see this? Artificial skin and female gaze coming together.
Well, artificial skin. In general, I think in terms of the theme of the exhibition and what we're talking about is that the female gaze in this case, I would kind of go with the intuition and how the intuition is very female in my opinion, and like this is kind of how we go about potential future and how what we kind of think we can somehow predict. Nevertheless, the particular work that I am showing, it's not it's not supposed to specify the gender. It's exactly supposed to be the genderless, non-gender mass, the bodily mass, the surface, whether it's natural, whether it's artificial.
So it's more like queer gaze at the end.
Yes,
yeah, it's just a skin.
Yes, it's kind of, it's supposed to be a little bit abstracted from that.
That has her own life in this work. I have 7 questions, but I wrote them here on this paper and the backside of our essay.
Okay.
So, but they are short, and if you don't like some of them, it's like
you
can just say, or you can ask your own questions. And we have wonderful audience that came here, so maybe you want to also interrupt or something. And the other thing, I wanted to ask you about the society and the social fiber. How do you reflect in your work on social changes, and what kind of strategies we can find in your work that reflect these things that are happening around us? You know, Mari, social changes. And also I'm interested in like what kind of social groups you live in, like what kind of people are around you in your life, in your work, like are you navigating around different social groups or it's like just 2 of them?
Well, I'm based in New York, so in New York I'm in this beautiful bubble of very creative people who, it's really just kind of what I looked for in America. My first exhibition, which was titled Young American, was about 300 portraits of young people photographed around New York. And in the statement, it was very kind of, felt from the heart that that's the America I came for, and not the Trump who was elected at that time and really was shaping America in a totally different way with building walls and all of these things that seem to me it's going backwards, not going forward. So I think the people that surround you is a very important thing in life. It could also sometimes feel as a privilege because certain locations have totally different demographic of people than other locations. I spend a lot of time also in Czech Republic, in my small hometown, which is in
and
a
you also
sense
come back from time to
little
time.
like opposite of New York, but also totally different mentality because it's a small town, so everybody knows everybody. Not like in New York where it's also very anonymous. So, coming from Czech Republic, small town, everybody knew me as Marie, the daughter of the teacher, like my sisters, like you are put into certain box and it's hard to be somebody else, and I had long hair and I was this classic pretty girl, whatever. Then I moved to New York. Nobody knows you. You can be whoever you want to be because
But now
there's
they know
so
you
much
Abby,
freedom.
so.
But like,
right.
there is still this really like feeling of freedom and I think that's important. So I think it's kind of, you get shaped a lot by the environment and place where you live, and that's also how you observe social changes. Some places it's more progressive and faster, some places are slower. We've definitely seen lots of changes in New York in the past 5 years since, there's been a lot happening, less so happening in my small hometown. So
Is it a positive direction or not? Because I got the feeling that people are complaining that it's not at the different
I don't
city
know.
now.
It's
and it
really
affects...
hard to tell. I think
Okay.
it takes time to really understand. It's
Okay.
sometimes hard to see at the moment where you are in it because you're so in it, you don't have the outside perspective. A little bit like further away from it. With time, you then can, judge it a little better with what's going on.
Okay.
I work a lot with people in my photography, but I have to say I also felt like I need a little bit of distance and my own world, so I started painting again, and that's a way more solitary work where it's more meditative and like kind of intuitive, and it's really your own internal space that you get to put out there. So I enjoy that as well at this point. There's a lot going on in the world that I feel like we can't really easily make better, even though we would really want. So sometimes one needs to find the balance.
So there is this function
To
of
stay
painting,
sane.
okay, that is a kind of solitude, so you can take distance, okay, I see that. Lisbon. Clara, Mia, you live in Lisbon. What kind of social fabric is around
I'm
you?
actually from Porto,
Porto, okay,
Yes.
good.
and I live and work there.
Okay.
So I think Porto is even a smaller town than Lisbon. So almost like it's getting more international and very touristy, but it's more even has more of that village feeling that you were talking about. Everyone knows you, or nowadays not so much, but you have that. I was living in London before, so I can have like the
Okay.
kind of notion of the difference that it has, But
Same
I
as
still,
Mia, like you also moved from London, yes? To,
really?
yeah.
But the way that I think that my work talks about like the reality around it, I don't identify as much as the place that I'm in, because it's a very fantasy place that I go to. So, and it's a very individual journey, So I really feel that my life and my work are very connected, obviously. But it's something that I accomplish with my work or with a breakthrough, then has a direct impact in the person I am. So I think maybe more by example, like to my students, or
You are teaching, yes, at the...
Yeah.
Okay.
ceramics.
Okay, cool.
And also of this going back to nature, that I wanted to find within myself as well, and obviously reflects the world that we're in at the moment,
So this is the
post-COVID and
balance
everything.
to the society,
Say again?
escaping to nature.
I wouldn't say there's a solution,
Okay.
but I definitely
Okay.
can find myself more there. and then come back to the confusion and, you know,
Cool.
to the real world, like,
Cool.
of day-to-day life.
Mia.
Social changes. To be honest, my work, I try to be very detached from that, because exactly coming from Warsaw, living in London, and then moving to Lisbon, observing all this and being part of it, it could be very overwhelming. And in Warsaw, there's so many transitions right now in Poland. London is extremely saturated town, and Lisbon is, again, like we can see, so for the past 5 years how it changed already, and how many people, what is the influx of massive, influx of people, newcomers. So I kind of treat my studio as my own private place, and I kind of try not to invite all the outside influence and my work is mostly kind of focused on the private navigation through whatever is it, either my home, my studio. You kind of look into the spaces exactly internally within, and kind of try to break down those private
But you share your
places.
studio with some more people, so
Ah,
there's
yes,
like constant
of course.
interaction. Okay.
Well, you can say so, of course. It's nice to have a company,
Okay.
but it could seem that we have a constant interaction. But it's very much of a regular work. You come to the studio like to any office, and you work. You are on your own. It's nice to have a coffee with someone or
Okay.
lunch. Just
it's
to,
cheaper
yes.
rent because we
Exactly. But it is a lonely practice.
Cool.
Still. So yeah,
Cool.
I think.
Artistic mediums. You work with different mediums: photography, video, and painting now, ceramics. And Mia is the range of
Mixed,
photography,
yes, mixed media
painting,
now.
installation.
Yeah, I studied photography, my BA and MA, but from MA, it kind of expanded because I was even encouraged by the tutors
Yes.
to suddenly drop the photography and go into sculpture. Then this
Yes.
took me to the installation. Then it took me to painting right now, and the next is ceramics, I hope. So
Okay.
yeah, like I would now call it mixed media actually.
Okay.
Nevertheless, people like to still call me photographer because of my studies.
Cool. So I wanted to ask how these mediums that are different, you think shape your sensibility in art? How do you see it? How photography affected your sensibility? Would that be different if you work with something more like sculptural forms?
I think
Did
so.
you consider this?
See, interestingly enough, I studied painting. I have MFA as a painter, but
Okay.
I started to do photography, so everybody sees me as a photographer now, but I'm actually a painter. It's very funny how one switches from one to another. I think that there is a big difference how you create and think and what you put into it based on the medium, especially for me with photography, because photography is for me a lot about either self-portraiture or photographing other people, which means you are really interacting very much so with somebody in front of the camera and you create together. But in painting, it's a totally different world, much slower, much more peaceful. There's lots of decisions you can do on your own speed. You don't have to look for the other person in front of the camera to feel good, to be, the best they could be and capture something together. And I realized when I was studying painting, I really wanted to be a very realistic painter. And I kind of didn't feel satisfied enough with achieving that. And then, I don't know, should have switched to photography much sooner, because in photography, I really fulfilled that need of being realistic. And now, 12 years later, or 15, coming back to painting, I really appreciate painting for all the freedom that it has, that photography just doesn't have, because I shoot on analog. I don't like to do much in post-production, so there's certain limit to the reality you are in.
Yes.
But in painting, oh my God, there's just a whole new world of shapes, colors, compositions. You can just really there's, in my opinion, absolute freedom.
Okay.
I haven't seen it like that back at school, when I was studying, trying to be realistic, but now coming from photography, I am just in love. I am, you know, it's like there's so many possibilities, and I love that about painting. So there's a whole different mindset in a way.
And
for
this
me.
change is happening in the right moment, you think? It's like earlier, it
I
would
guess,
be too
yeah, I
early,
needed to
okay.
really get to the point where I can paint again and really feel like I have the freedom there and I allow myself to do what I want to do with it.
Cool. Clara, when I think about ceramics, I think about patience. It takes time, and sometimes there are some breaks. I don't know. It's
Yes,
like
all the
tell
time.
me,
Not
it's
breaks
like,
all the time, but, you
yeah, it
definitely need
happens.
to have patience. But it's funny, just because you're saying that, my background of studying wise is not ceramics. So I did ceramics very early on because it was the last course in the art school that was available. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do it. And then I was all my life until now trying to run away from it. When I went to uni, they were like, oh, we have the ceramics course, you should enroll. And I was like, no, because I wanted comics and illustration and like video game design, and that's what I did my internship in. And so the digital is very immediate, you know, and you can have like too many possibilities, you know, like 1,000 possibilities for one work. And it's like, it's too much, it's too overwhelming as well. And then with ceramics, I had kind of a moment that I realized I really wanted to do ceramics afterwards. And I had to start working with that patience.
Okay.
Of no, you put it in the kiln, you'd have no idea what it's gonna look like, and then you wait 24 hours, and then you will see. And you might be happy or devastated, but it was really interesting process to adapt to, you know, because I was used to the immediatism of the result, and then suddenly, and I feel a lot more at peace with this one, you know. Things might go wrong, but it has its time, and I think like nature comes back here again, like the natural rhythm of things.
Nice.
So yeah.
And Mia, your photographs of body, intimacy, sensibility.
Well, when it comes to the medium, it's exactly, it starts with photography. It's always a sort of starting point for me. But how I choose the medium, it's that exactly whenever I think about like, okay, this is the idea, I want to express this particular thing I have in my head, and then I just look for the medium that would express it the best way possible. Whether it's exactly a couple of years ago, it was concrete sculptures with polyurethane foam, or last year was photography, then this time it's exactly, I feel like it must be the painting. It's, so the medium for me, it's not the ultimate solution. I mean, it's not the final always decision. It's more about staying consistent with what the subject matter is and how I want to express it, and it's just kind of experimenting at what would be the best way of doing that. But exactly, it's what Maria was saying about photography, is that photography is still the fastest medium to work with. It's whereas exactly painting is the utter extreme to it. It's the ultimate slowdown.
Okay.
And the patience there, and exactly like taking your time. It's a completely new world for me also. But I do remember that when it comes to photography, when I was still studying and I was doing photographs in the darkness on large format camera, I realized that it's my phone. Unreal.
I can't hear it, okay.
Sorry.
No problem.
The large format camera is definitely the slowest. I remember that it took me like 40 minutes. It was taking 40 minutes to take one photograph, because you have to have this staging, the every little element, how expensive the one frame is. It's like you really take your time. There is the meditation in it also, and it's like you have to be very decisive when you finally click.
Okay.
So yeah.
Good.
And large format camera is definitely something that it's very ambitious.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Ambitious project, good. My other question is about the other artists that are working on similar subject. How do you relate to that? Like, are there any particular inspirations or references, or are you making friends with the people that are working on something similar, or maybe you are looking for something different? How does it happen in your work life? You're working with Libuze now,
yes,
so
Libuše
she's
Jarcoviaková, who is an amazing Czech photographer who I admire and love her work. And it's upcoming project with curator Lucy Cherna, who works with Libuše a lot, and Thomas Beachdale, who works with me a lot. And I'm very excited to see two bodies of work from totally different eras, photography-wise, self-portraiture, put together and see what other meanings come out of it. So I think that's the project they're working on. It's always very fascinating for me to meet people who, I love their work and actually meet them as personas and who they are, because, artists are their own thing, and very often if you love the art that they do, you actually love the person as well, because it's very much so connected. But it's also important for me in New York to go see exhibitions of people that I love, I just saw the Wolfgang Tillmans at MoMA. I love his work, but what I love about him the most is that you walk into MoMA and it made me feel like I can take pictures, photographs of anything, and it can end up at MoMA, because that's exactly what he's doing. And it's so freeing. It doesn't have to be that perfect old school done photograph. That's, he brings a whole new meaning and freedom into photography, in my opinion, and I think it's amazing. So I love all that layers of the art world, of the people who are really on top, and seeing their work, as well as connecting with people that, like the Czech artist you had in the show last time.
Yes.
What's her name? I'm blanking. Janičková, right? And meeting her and loving her work, I think that it's important to stay connected.
Are there many young photographers that approach you and
are
inspired by you, or?
Yeah, it's very sweet. It happens a lot abroad, in New York as well. New York is, but everybody talks to you in New York. People are not shy. It's very natural thing just to go to opening and people start talking to me and they know my work, which is always, I'm like, wow, this is so sweet.
Okay.
But it's always a little bit more precious when that happens abroad, because, for example, Czech people are somewhat more shy, and it's not that common that people just approach you and chat with you. So I always love talking to people and always appreciate that, and
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Clara, you are a teacher, so you are inspiration for your students.
Yes, I'd like to think so. That's why they keep bearing with me.
Okay.
But talking about artists that I admire, and then I have so I teach in my studio, and there are two other rooms in my studio. One of them is a ceramicist designer, and the other one is a painter that I met a few years ago. And although her medium is very different to mine, she's a painter. She's always working on roots as well, and female wood as well. But we found that really funny that we both use roots in everything, and everything ends up looking in some part of the work that has a root. So I think I drink a lot from that as well, having a person like that in the studio, which is also my friend. And we did an exhibition together, so I did the ceramic framing for her paintings. It was cool. And that's, I think, the person that I feel a symbiosis with lately, that I can relate to artistically.
I think there was a growing interest in ceramics in the last years.
Definitely.
You saw this too, yes?
Definitely.
Okay.
Especially after COVID, people were at home, they started planting in their gardens, they started doing ceramics. And I think not just because they had to stay at home, but also because there was a shift in what's really urgent and important for you as a human being, to touch the earth is something that, what I was saying about the switch from digital to organic before, it's it's something physical and chemical as well, the actual electricity that goes from you to earth. It's something that you're discharging, it's not just a mental thing. So
and I think the ceramics became more democratic because more people are involved into this, people that don't really associate it with a kind of, art profession, but just for fun.
Yes.
You can just
That's
attend
true.
workshops and do it once a week, and
Yeah, I saw, especially in my hometown, I saw a lot of people that did one workshop and they liked it and they started doing it like slowly, and now they're doing it professionally or half and half. And their work is really interesting because it doesn't have that formation of art school and needs to be perfect.
Precious
And
thing, yes.
something that some people try to achieve throughout their careers, not minimizing the art teaching, but it's very spontaneous and organic.
But it could be very satisfying, no? Because it's, in a way, it is something that what you said with the lockdown and COVID is that this is, you can actually do this fast, try to approach it, and it could give you a lot of satisfaction in a pretty relatively
definitely.
short time if you're not even experienced with it. So
Yeah,
it's definitely
exactly. No, everyone that starts, imagine if someone comes to do a workshop and they're like, no, I'm gonna be really bad at it. I never, me and arts, and I'm like, okay, wait for it. And then they start touching the clay, and they're like, this is amazing. I feel really good. And then something good always comes out of it. Even if it's just like the person felt so good doing that, there's like, I really love my piece.
I think it's amazing if you see that something is shaping under your fingers as in the real time right there, you know, so.
Yeah.
Mia, any connections to particular artists like?
So I was trying to remember what was the question.
How do you relate to other artists that work with similar subject in your work?
I relate. In a way.
No particular.
But there's it's an overwhelming amount of artists that work with similar subject matter, and in order for me to kind of stay focused, and I don't mean to sound arrogant, is that, oh yes, I'm not inspired by anyone, but in order to kind of stay focused on what I am doing and try to not kind of be too influenced, I'm actually kind of going back to the studio and just more focusing on, I don't know, reading and talking to people. Simple conversation about, it could be about whatever, but it just like opens up things in you that you have potentially doubts about or you're fearing, and then it makes you realize that one conversation with another artist is just, you know, changes the entire perspective and approach to something that you actually want to do but didn't know how to. So in general, the connection with people is extremely important, and the dialogue and the conversation and being in events like this or attending and just having this opportunity to be around.
That's how I understand, yes. Cool. Okay, my last question, very general, and then maybe some people would like to add something, or I don't know, you want to comment on something, or your experience of the art world. What do you think? Only honest opinions.
And we're saying this on the camera?
If you want to complain, you can complain now. I'm not sure if we can give any precise names, not to be sued later. But what is changing, what is not changing, what you like, what you don't like, you know, it's like, what's your experience with this system? Because it's dynamic, it's
I think it's vast.
non-stop,
You know, it's vast. It's huge. It depends where, in which country, which place. And I think some art world in some places feels amazing, and some places not so good. And you just kind of have to pick through it and go. I like to be with the people that I feel, good energy. And there's good energy everywhere, and you just have to find the right people.
But you work with different galleries. You had a lot of exhibitions and so on. Like, did you find understanding when you were working on your project?
I think
you also work with your partner together. That's creating.
Most of the time, I had only positive experiences, and really, it's meeting interesting people. And I worked with people from Berlin to Tokyo to New York, and everywhere you find different challenges based on, I think, also like just how people are used to working in certain cultures. It's everywhere, it's a little different, but I also kind of expect that, so you just have to get on board with it, and it's good. It's great.
Do you think that the art world is becoming more democratic comparing to the last years?
Too democratic.
Okay, we have another standpoint. I want to hear more about that, okay.
Well, no, we don't have enough time. It was a joke.
I think it's good. I think it's moving the right direction, and it's just kind of one needs to stay active and in there and try to like keep your vision and get people on board.
Okay, I like that. Clara?
I agree with, I think it's getting better. So I feel like there's a lot of, and can you say unmonopolization or demonopolization of like big institutions and a lot of things that are happening on the side by small groups that are interesting, and they start getting bigger and then they have a voice as well. So I think the way is, like maybe 50 years ago we wouldn't be here,
Right.
So things have to start somewhere. Maybe it starts with a little bit of tokenism and then it starts being like organically the thing that is. So
it's turning into real power. It's not just the facade of placing certain people and then nothing changes organically.
Yeah, I think even if it starts out like that, then that creates something.
Yes,
That's a seed, and then
Good.
things will grow and are growing, I think.
Good.
Yeah, and I think that's how the changes actually happen.
Yeah, exactly.
People just have to like put it in there a little bit, and then it becomes more organic and fluid. And
I need to officially thank you for this talk.
Thank you.
You are amazing.
Thank
That is a huge pleasure to work with all of you and other artists, and I'm happy that there are also some more people in the audience, and we are going also to have some more videos from the exhibition walkthrough and so on. So there will be like the whole exhibition, these images. Thank you a lot.
Thank you.
thank you for
precious
having me in the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Yay.